Welcome to the Legally Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Rob Hanna. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Michael Laming and Laura Coad. Michael is the Director of Forensic Accounting and Commercial Damages at HKA. A chartered accountant, Michael's background is in audit and forensic accounting. Michael is regarded as a financial expert with experience in litigation, commercial arbitration, and investment treaty arbitration proceedings. Laura is an associate at Keidan Harrison, specializing in dispute resolution. Laura has expertise in handling commercial, civil fraud, banking, and insolvency disputes in the High Court. She also has experience in arbitration and alternative dispute resolution methods. Michael and Laura are members of the London International Disputes Week and Young and Young at Heart, a forward-thinking and inclusive forum exploring the future of international dispute resolution. So with that both said, a very warm welcome to Michael and Laura.
Hi, Rob.
Oh, it's great to have you both on the show.
Thanks,
and super excited to dive into all your amazing projects, experiences, and what are you getting up to for the legal community. But before that, we do have a customary icebreaker question here on the Legally Speaking podcast, which is, on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, what would you rate the hit TV series Suits in terms of its reality of the law, if you've seen it? Coming to you first, Laura.
So I'm going to have to be honest, I've only seen about one Suits episode, and I don't know whether I should be saying that. But yeah, I kind of didn't get into it as much as I thought I would. So from what I've seen, I'd go around a 3, but I can't really say much more than that. Fair
enough. Answer. And Michael, if you've seen it, what would you give it?
Yeah, no, I have seen it. I think I stopped watching when Megan left. I on the basis, purely on the basis that I don't remember a single expert being given enough limelight in Suits as I think they're warranted. I'd give it a 7.
Fair enough. And with the law of averages, that comes out as a 5. And that's what I've also given the show before in the past. So with that, we can move swiftly on to talk both about your incredible backgrounds and what you're doing for the legal community. So to begin with, would you mind telling our listeners about your sort of career journeys and backgrounds? Michael, if you could go first, and then over to you, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a trained chartered accountant. I qualified with Ernst & Young in London. Did my time in audit for a couple of years, moved into the forensics department where I sort of got my first taste of some disputes investigations work. Spent a couple of years there, then moved into Haven Islet disputes advisory boutique in London, and spent 3 great years there. Very steep learning curve, but sort of invaluable experiences learning from some of the best. Got a call from a recruiter one day, having been going out with a Spanish woman for a couple of years. And just off the cuff said, not interested, but if you happen to have anything in Spain, let me know. A few phone calls later, a few interviews later, was senior manager in EY's forensics practice in Madrid, trying to desperately learn Spanish to keep up. Spent some good time there. The idea was to sort of push international arbitration expert services in that world. And then got a phone call from HK at the end of 2020, start of 2020 rather, that they were building out their forensic accounting commercial damages practice in London. So came back. Tough to leave Madrid. Spent a year in London post-Brexit, post-COVID. The pain of trying to furnish a flat when nobody would deliver to you because of those two was enough that after a year we decided we wanted to go back to Spain. So had some discussions internally in HK and then agreed that I'd move back out to Madrid with a view of pushing on the Spain and LATAM markets. I've now been out here for a couple of years. And in terms of LIDW, I initially got involved through Colin Johnson, a partner at HK and a board member of LIDW, who basically got me involved in the accounting, with the promise that there would be good things to come if you got stuck in with the numbers and did that work. And that's exactly what happened. Strategy group meeting one day, interested in exploring some more opportunities for the younger community, and said, you're the youngest in the room. Here you go. And that was a couple of years ago, and since then we've just been really pushing on with the concept.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can't wait to talk more about that a little bit later on as well. And very jealous about the Madrid thing, being in the Northwest as we speak, in sort of, the slightly less attractive climates. But there we go. Laura, would love to come to you and get a bit of an overview of your background and career journey.
Yes, I was going to say my journey isn't exotic as getting into Spain. But yeah, so I studied law at university and then did my LPC at law school, and then at that time I didn't get a training didn't have a training contract, which some people might see as a risk, doing the LPC and things like that. So I self-funded the LPC, and then I wanted to continue on that journey, so I managed to get a paralegal role at a regional law firm in Hertfordshire. It was leading a regional law firm, and I spent 2 years being paralegal there, kind of, with the aim of trying to get a training contract. So really like push myself to be the best that I could. I was a paralegal in the dispute resolution department. And I really, really enjoyed being at that department, kind of the contentious side of things. And then I was lucky enough to get a training contract at that firm after a very strenuous assessment day, where I actually did a presentation on tap dancing. We had to do a presentation about something that interested you, and at the time, it did well because I managed to get the training contract, so that was a good thing. And then, so I did an 18-month training contract because I'd done my paralegal experience. So I did a seat in dispute resolution, and I also did a seat in private client, but wasn't so interested in that compared to the DR kind of experience. It wasn't kind of for me. I'm more of wanted the contentious side of things. I think it fitted my personality a bit more. Rid of that kind of will. And then, so I, after 18 months, qualified into the dispute resolution department at that same firm. Working very closely with Luke Harrison, who is co-chair of LIDW. He was the managing partner of the dispute resolution department at that time. I was an associate for about 2 years, and then in about February 2020, so just before COVID, Luke kind of dropped the bombshell that he would be leaving the firm and setting up a new firm with Mark Keidan from Keidan at the time. And he and it was a bit of a bombshell. I was a bit shocked. And then he asked me if I wanted to join him. And at the time I had been thinking, thinking about how I would progress my career and what I really wanted to do. And what I really wanted to do was make that step into London. Had been at regional firm. It's kind of, you're looking into London like, oh, that's kind of where I want to be. That's where, the value of the cases is a bit more exciting. That was always my aim. So I thought about it for a little bit, but I always knew it was going to be a great opportunity for me. So I was just like, right, gotta step on that wagon with him, see how it goes. So May 2020, Keidan Harrison was born, which was, yes, in COVID, in the middle of COVID. But, I've spoken about this in quite a lot to people, and it actually worked to our benefit because we didn't obviously have systems that we need to move across and kind of try and move stuff across. We were just starting again from afresh. So we went with the COVID times and that kind of new world. We started in the new world. So there wasn't like you had to work in a new way. We were starting in that way. And it was always, we were going to be kind of doing 3 days in the office anyway. That was kind of what the thought process was before. So we were kind of moving in that direction. So so I was the first associate, so the OG associate. So it was me, Luke, and Mark, the three of us right at the beginning, and then we've just been. We're coming up to our 4th birthday, so it's been a very stressful journey. I mean, there was nothing in place. You don't realise you take a lot of things for granted when you go to a law firm. All the basic stuff, practice management systems and HR, accounts. We didn't really have any of that, so I had to help build on that, which is really kind of great experience because I wouldn't obviously get there anywhere else. Helping to create a new boutique law firm. So 4 years later, we're a team of about 14, 6 associates, 3 partners. So we're always growing. So it's been up and down, but it's been an incredible experience. So. Yeah,
and so many good messages in there, particularly, in terms of the paralegaling experience and, pursuing, and not giving up that sort of hope of getting the training contract. And then, like you say, I always say, the relationships are important. You had obviously built a relationship with Luke, and then you had trust there, and then you took a new opportunity and you didn't look at it from a complete risk perspective. I'm joining a startup, and you saw all these great new skills that you've acquired along the way of shaping a new exciting firm. And, you're not necessarily trying to move a juggernaut around. You can be a little bit more nimble, entrepreneurial, and all of that good stuff. So I love that. You've both touched on the LIDW and Yaya, but let's talk about it a little bit more. Because Michael, your committee members, can you tell us a little bit more about your roles and what they're both about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the committee was basically came about just we wanted to do a social event in sort of the first LIDW coming out of COVID, which was a hybrid event, and it was just figuring out how we do that and how many hands on deck we needed. So basically, the email went out saying, "Are you interested? Please come and give us a hand." Almost. So I think we had about 5 or 6 members in our first year, and we're now up to 10, I believe. And I'll try and pronounce their names, but the last time we had a social event, I spent about half an hour in the bathroom just repeating them in a mirror, because there's a couple of names that are a bit more difficult. But we now have a great team which consists of Beth Pendock, who's an associate at Pinson Masons, Lorna Sleeve, senior associate at Stevens and Bolton, Lucia Bisakova from DLA, Will Crossley, and Julia Jablinska-Pakowska. Julia Jablinska-Pakowska. As you can see, which one is the tricky one. Ed Case, senior director at FTI, Jennifer Carnegie at HK, senior managing consultant, Isabel Bertram, who's head of BD and marketing at Radcliffe Chambers, and then Laura and myself. It's a great team. So it's a combination of experts and legal practitioners, which really gives us quite good coverage, and also sort of different perspectives when it comes to organising events and thinking about what we want to do. And we're really fortunate we've got a lot of flexibility in sort of choosing our path and the path we want LIDW to take. So it really helps having that, those different perspectives. We also do, I should mention that we've got an events team behind called TMB Events, and we've got specific help from Sarah Austin and Grace Longstaff, who, do a lot of the heavy lifting that we too often take credit for. But yeah, so again, it's just really helpful having them on board and sort of herding sheep at times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a great team effort, isn't it? And that's why I love collaborating and love bringing these minds together. Laura, for those who might be less familiar or may not know, could you explain what the LIDW is and just give us a bit more of a sort of in-depth understanding?
Yes, so LIDW is it's an international annual conference that explores and looks to explore and contribute to the future of international dispute resolution, and the real focus on having London as a leading centre for international disputes. It's kind of the main focus, and it comes through kind of the aim for it. LIDW Yaya. Now, Yaya stands for young and young at heart. So this is one of the things that people kind of often confused about, but it is literally what it says on the tin. It is for young and those that feel young and young at heart. We decided that it was decided not to put anything specific on it in terms of qualification years or age limits, kind of thing. It's if someone feels that a Yaya event would work for them, then more than welcome to come along. So there's no specific rules on it, and it's kind of like an open committee. So the RER kind of side of things is making a bit more fun, a bit more relaxed. Coming together to share ideas and drive things a bit forward from a different kind of perspective, a more younger practitioners' perspective. Just making sure that young voices don't get forgotten about and they're heard as well. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think it's great work that you're doing. And I know 2024 is another big year. So, Michael, coming to you, when and where will the LIW be? And I understand the theme for this year is Uniting for Global Challenge and Opportunity. So what's the inspiration behind this year's theme?
Yeah, so LIW 24 is going to take place. It starts on Monday the 3rd of June and runs through to the Friday. The main conference, which is going to be on the Tuesday the 4th, is taking place at the QE2 Centre, which is the largest venue we've ever used for an LIW core conference, main conference. So it sort of shows the ambition nicely there. The Monday is International Arbitration Day, which is going to be co-hosted by sort of 3 hubs, which are Clyde & Co, Covington Burling, and Kirk and Ellis. And then Wednesday to Friday morning are going to be member-hosted events, which are going to be various respective offices tackling all sorts of themes, subjects with some really broad and distinct panels and speakers. So that's the logistics for it. And obviously that, I'm sure the website probably does a much better job of explaining that than I've done. In terms of the theme itself, so the theme is Uniting for Global Challenge and Opportunity. And we haven't actually discussed in too much detail what exactly the group inspiration is for that. But from my personal perspective, I think there's sort of two things there. One is that we are in a world of increasing challenge, or it's increasingly challenging in the disputes resolution context in general. I mean, we've got geopolitical risks materializing, economic risks materializing, new sectors, new geographies, new regulation, artificial intelligence, cyber, space. Everything is creating a new challenge, and you need to be more dynamic and more flexible than ever to be able to deal with that and deal with it effectively. So that's sort of, we know the challenges are there. It's no surprise. What the focus of the theme really is that LIDW is intentionally quite broad, and it doesn't want to be an arbitration week focused on arbitration practitioners only, not litigation only, not experts only, not barristers only, not technological service providers only. It's intentionally focused or targeted towards a very broad market, which means that we can get all those voices together and, exactly as we were saying before, collaborate, have some thought-provoking discussions and come away from the week with some things that we can actually implement to convert those challenges and the terrifying fear of the next challenge that's coming around the corner into an opportunity. So that's really, that's my perspective on it, at least, and hopefully echoed by the PR team behind LIDW.
Yeah, and I think you gave a really good overview, and you touched on a few bits and bobs there, which I'd like to dive in just a little bit more from your side, Laura, in terms of there are going to be a number of these events taking place. So, give us an idea, maybe for people who might be attending or thinking about attending, some of the varied technical programs going to be available, and what they can learn from the experience.
Yeah, I mean, there is I think LIDW, when you look on the website and the program list, there is quite a few. It can be a bit daunting. It's kind of, what do you pick? And it's what kind of interests you, but there is such a variety. Maybe choose things that you haven't really looked at before. The variety is covering various geographies and kind of sections from fraud, AI, sanctions, ESG, and then aviation disputes. So there's quite a lot on there. So and they're all, and there's a lot of them are, they're member hosted events, so they're run by law firms, and they've got good people doing it. There's also panel discussions with Mrs. Justice Cockrell in relation to disputes funding, the prediction for the future for that. So going with the theme of LIDW, and there's also a panel discussion with Mr. Justice Henshaw on the global landscape of enforcement of judgments and awards. So it's very interesting stuff, very thought-provoking topics, but there is quite a lot. But I would encourage people kind of have a look at the program and kind of spend some time looking through, what there is to offer.
Yeah, exactly. I always think you need to optimize the opportunities when it presents themselves, and there's going to be a lot on offer. So, really take the time to see what's available and make the time to go, and also do the networking as well, which I think is important. So, Laura, happy to get your views as well. But coming back to you, Michael, because I understand there's going to be a whole day dedicated to international arbitration as the arbitration bill is considered by the UK Parliament. So, how is London a leading hub for international arbitration, and in what ways is the LIDW 2024 looking to celebrate this specifically?
Yeah, so in terms of London as a leading hub, I suppose the question probably gets asked because there's questions as to whether it is, and I think it was one of the key discussion points a couple of years ago at one of the LIDW, and it's I don't think there's any hiding the fact that there are, with new geographies and new jurisdictions, there are new centres are popping up and having success with their own USPs, but it doesn't take away from what London has to offer. And from my perspective, again, probably one that I expect is shared by the rest of the people involved in LIDW. London has an incredible history, and with that history comes the experience, the knowledge, the skills, the individuals who sort of operate in the market, and the investment. So the challenge for London isn't so much or the question isn't so much whether it is or how is it, it's how can it remain a leading hub. And that's really about not becoming complacent. And it's sort of, the arbitration bill reflects that it's thinking about how to maintain its position as a leading hub and it's being adaptive, it's being flexible, it's thinking about, what is changing and how do we evolve to be best placed to remain a leading hub. And in terms of what LIDW 2024 is doing, so we've got this full day dedicated to international arbitration on the Monday. I think the fact that there's no coincidence that it's the first day of the week, nor that it's a full day out of a 4.5 day conference that is purely dedicated to international arbitration. I think that says a lot about how seriously it's taken, and the format of the day itself. So a couple of years ago, I was very fortunate to be involved in this new format, which essentially is called Following the Sun, where we start in the East and we make our way through regions, jurisdictions towards the West, towards Latin America, and just with each region take a different perspective, get their different perspectives on, what is London doing? Is it doing enough? What are the advantages, disadvantages? How do things differ when you take the perspective of someone operating in Asia versus someone operating in the States? And it just really gives a great set of perspectives and a really interesting bunch of panelists to focus on that. And what the takeaway as well, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on what London's doing. Is it doing enough? And, to implement changes as required. I think it's probably worth mentioning now, I don't know whether someone was going to touch on it later, but this year it's an incredibly ambitious objective to try and get around the world in a day. And this year I've seen on the panel, on the program rather, that I think we end in space. I think it's hosted by Kirkland Ellis at 4:30 on the Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, just to show how much we're evolving and taking notice of, space is something that we have to be considering in disputes relating to space. So, it's there. So we're not just going around the world, we are leaving the world on Monday, the 4th of June. So yeah, it's promising.
Bigger than the world. I'm excited. I like that. And so, I mean, with that, what are you personally looking forward to, Laura, in terms of LIDW 24? And are there any sessions you'd really recommend people attending? Love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so we haven't yet talked about the YAR events specifically. So this year, previous years, we've just kind of done a social event for YAR, and this year we kind of wanted to expand it. Try and encourage more younger practitioners to come along to LIDW rather than it just being kind of all partners and, there's no reason, so much of a reason for them to go, maybe. So we thought, encourage it more by having more events. So on the Tuesday, we've got the YAR and GAR Live Academy Workshop, which is the YAR's academic programme. So that's on the Tuesday. And then on the Tuesday evening, we've got the YAR and Co dinner clubs, which are being hosted by various other young committee groups. So we've been in contact with various young committee groups for them to kind of host. So that we're working alongside them as well. So again, encouraging more and more people to be involved. And then on the Thursday evening, we're joining up with Law Rocks at Scala for the social event. So that's I don't know if you've been to Scala before, but it's a massive venue over like 3 or 4 floors. It's very, very impressive. So that's going to be a big night. So and also I did actually see there was a running club on the Friday morning, which is quite good. Something different out of everything, but I'm not sure if I'll make it after the Thursday evening. But let's see.
Let's see. Watch this space. Time for a short break from the show. Are you trapped in a relationship with the wrong legal software provider? It's time to break free and switch to Clio. For a limited time, when you switch to Clio, you can get up to 6 months off a Clio subscription, a free data migration scoping call, and a £100 gift card for attending a demo. Clio is your cost-effective and flexible solution. Choose a plan that fits your needs and budget with no long-term commitments. Pricing starts from just £49 per user per month. Worried about the migration process? Don't be. Clio handles the migration of your existing data and ensures a smooth transition with zero downtime. Join the thousands of solicitors who trust Clio. Switch to Clio now and save. Visit clio.com/UK/break free to learn more. This is a limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. Now back to the show. And so, coming back to you, Michael, what would you say are some of the key benefits of a young lawyer being part of, LIDW YAR?
I mean, I think the key benefits really come down to the way we've structured it, and we've tried to create this sort of this safe haven almost, where where young practitioners or young at heart practitioners can sort of come together in a more informal setting and meet people who they're not going to meet every single day. I mean, speaking from an expert's perspective, a lot of our relationships are formed on the job with the respective law firms we're working with, the end clients. But there's a much broader range of professionals and professions within dispute resolution, and both LIDW main conference, or the main week, and LIDW both give those options to sort of build your networks. And the IO in particular is sort of those early steps where the fear of walking into an intimidating conference room full of senior partners. We don't tell senior partners they're not allowed to come to our events. Of course, that's not our intention. But at the same time, there's a gentle nudge in the pricing, in the venues we choose, in the format. It's a LawRocks gig, actually, probably as a poor example because everyone attends LawRocks gigs. But some of the way we focus our events is to just create something a bit different where they can really get the benefits of setting up their own networks and creating and developing their own brand a bit. And then obviously the LGWs, before I became involved in actually organising it, the panels, the topics discussed, the quality of speakers is excellent. And it's one of those conferences where you go into it and you come away, putting the networking benefits aside, that you come away having sort of real tangible pieces of learning that you can take away and implement in your day to day. Which, not to discredit any other conference, but you can't. I don't think you could fairly say it of every conference. Some you go to thinking I'm going to network, and that's wrong. I'll show up 10 minutes before the end and have a drink. Whereas this, you want to be bums on seats from the off.
Yeah, and I always like to say, these sort of things are an experience as well. It's the overall experience, isn't it? You're not just going to this, blocking it out in my calendar, I've got this event today. You want to get something from the whole experience. And that's why I like how you've really thought everything through in terms of what's on offer, but also from a social as well as the business and the sort of networking and, making it super accessible and giving and encouraging the next generation to feel that, this is an inclusive and safe space where you can come learn, mastermind, and also just be yourself. And you touched on it before, but Laura, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your special guest that will be attending the LIDW 2024, Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales, Baroness Carr of Walton on the Hill. What will she be addressing specifically?
So, need to come to the LIDW conference to find that out, to get the full experience. But so she's an incredible speaker. But so she'll be focusing on kind of the things we've been discussing throughout this. But particularly London being a global hub and kind of putting on a uniting front and stuff like that. So I would advise to come to that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, right? You have to be in the room to get the value of these experiences and meeting these people and learning the wisdom and soaking it all up. So talking of wisdom, we've also had the privilege of having Henrietta Jackson-Stops, who's been a former guest on our show before, who's the co-chair of the LIDW, who stated, "This year's conference encourages discussion, debate, collaboration across all aspects of dispute resolution, including the growth of mediation." So how is dispute resolution becoming more prevalent as the legal industry embraces the ever-changing 21st century? We'd love to get your thoughts on this, Michael, and anything you'd like to add, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the challenges we touched upon before, all those challenges do, for better or for worse, often result in an increased number of disputes, and traditional dispute mechanisms aren't always the preference of all parties, which is why alternative dispute resolution, arbitration, mediation, other formats exist. So to put it very simply, the more complexity in the world, for whatever reasons, the more disputes typically come about, and the more complex disputes which demand more of the dispute resolution profession. So in that sense, it's prevalent because it's almost a function of what's happening in the world. In an ideal world, contracts are performed perfectly, projects are completed on time. It's not reality, which is why we exist, to be completely frank. And in terms of, I think the relevance of mediation, which is, I think, what Henrietta mentioned, I think it's just that, because disputes are becoming more complex, they're more diverse in the types of disputes that are coming about, where they're being seen. it's not one size fits all. Same for litigation, for arbitration equally, which is why mediation is really coming forward as an alternative. And it's not a perfect fit for every dispute, but it's a great example of how the dispute resolution profession has adapted and evolved to answer or to cater to a requirement that was there that wasn't being perfectly catered to with the existing mechanisms.
Yeah, and exactly. And something that I talk about a lot as well is, needing to have that adaptability in the law and have these other mechanisms that exist that probably are slightly more fit for purpose. But Laura, anything you would add to that or any of your thoughts on that particular one?
Yeah, the legal profession generally, as well, including disputes, is kind of stooped in tradition. People will see London, maybe it might be viewed as being archaic, but that it's a way of keeping the traditions and, the beautiful courts and things like that, but moving with the modern times. But obviously things evolve and are adapting so rapidly. It's whether it keeps up and how it keeps up without losing those traditions. So I think that is important. And I think, like Michael said, with the evolution of kind of arbitration and mediation and kind of different angles for disputes, I think you can see that's where it's going. And there is a forward focus, but it's just not losing something, but keeping up with the times. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and we're all for that, and absolutely, you are with what you're doing and what you're putting on, and everything that you stand for. This question's for both of you, Michael. Coming back to you, what would be your top 3 tips for someone attending the LIDW for the first time and looking to network?
Good question. Register early.
Yeah.
And I say that because there are the member hosted events in particular. There are sort of, depending on where they're being held, there is limited capacity, and it's happened to me in the past that you put that off because the conference is still a couple of months away, and you find out that you're limited to either virtual attendance, which is great, but not quite the same as that in the room feeling. Attend LIDW events, of course. It's not just for the young. That's what the name says. And they really are great events, and the teams put a lot of thought into creating these events that exactly do what I think we need to be doing for the younger community and the young at heart community, of course. And then probably something that Laura touched on earlier is just sort of don't be afraid of the extensive program that LIDW has, but embrace it. There is probably sort of a comfort in going to events or member hosted events or the main conference and subjects that and you're familiar with. By all means, great. You can pick up some additional bits and new information that you can apply in your day to day. But LIDW for me is a great opportunity to go and discover completely new things. I mean, last year there were some really good member hosted events on sports disputes, which it's not something I cater to in my day to day, but I'd love to be involved in more. And it was perfect setting to kind of go in and see, when I talk about sports disputes, that's probably what I mean to be talking about. So I mean, go through the program, look carefully, register quickly, and just enjoy the offering that there is.
Yeah, I love that. And Laura, what would be your sort of top 3 tips?
I think networking for young practitioners can be quite daunting. I mean, it can be daunting even to those most experienced. Walking into a room full of people isn't the most comfortable. People find it more comfortable than others, but not actually many people do find it that comfortable. So, people can have a face and put a face on better than others. But I would just say, be yourself. Go to what you want to go to. Try and push yourself out of your comfort zone, but don't do it to the point that it's not going to make you feel that comfortable. I mean, I was had some advice previously where it's good to try and create your own profile and connections right from the very beginning of your career, because you don't know who you might meet. These people might become your friends and your support network throughout your career. You're not always thinking about where next piece of work comes down the line, but if you've got friends and people that naturally will just occur. So you just got to create your own image, your own profile, who you are. Don't try and copy other people. Be yourself. And if you're in a group, for example, or you're speaking to someone and someone says, I'm going to go and talk to someone else now. Don't be disheartened by that. Just kind of be like, I'll go on to move to the next person. Maybe we didn't get along, and I'll talk to the next person, and this will be a great opportunity. I'll really get along with that person. So just don't be disheartened by anything like that. would also advise, posting on LinkedIn maybe a couple of weeks before the event itself, just so people are aware that you might be going, and send maybe a couple of messages to other people who you've seen are going and say, oh, would be good to meet up, what are you going to, like start conversations. And then always, after you've been to LIDW, I've always been told it's important to follow up with those people you've met. And see, how you can develop that relationship that you were able to form. So
I love that. Great tips. I always say fortune is in the follow-up. And yeah, absolutely, we're big fans of LinkedIn and getting yourself out there. And, you never know, there might be a sort of long-lost connection or a follower that actually, has been meaning to get in touch with you for the last 6 months that sees that as the perfect opportunity. So yeah, I love that. And just not trying to be someone that you're not and being authentic and, taking the experience for what it is. Okay. What plans do you have for the LIDW Yaya after 2024? Michael, coming to you.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something we've already started discussing, which shows sort of, I think, that we've got a lot of expectation, but it's a great thing to have. I think one of the things we've really pushed on this year is not just the educational side, so giving an educational opportunity to the Yaya group and not keeping it just to a one night social, but also collaboration. I think what we found in terms of the ticket registration so far, the dinner clubs we've got organised for the Tuesday night, I think sold out quicker than we'd hoped, to the extent that we had to find some additional tickets so that our own members of the committee could actually sign up. It's just collaborating with all those groups. So I think what we're going to be looking to do going forward is probably trying to do more regular collaboration events, not necessarily be limited by the 1 week that LIDW falls on, but doing it a bit more regularly, just because once a year can be quite a lot of pressure, and it can also fall at a terrible time in someone's work calendar, which means they can't make the most of the event, which is just bad luck. So if we're able to do some more regular events, which would be helped if we can collaborate with other groups, because we just have a much broader reach, that I think would be something great that I think we'd all be really, really pleased to try and do. And then next year, just build on the success of the educational side of things. GAR's an excellent partner to have. Little Rocks are an excellent partner to have. And all the member hosted events, a lot of those members are very keen to do more with the Yaya community. So to the extent we can get them to do Yaya events, wonderful.
Yeah, no, I love that. Laura, what would you add?
And yeah, I think we're looking to kind of collaborate with maybe other international Yaya, not Yaya specific, but young practitioners groups. So for example, this year I'm a member of IEJA, so we're they're getting involved with LIDW itself as well. So it's important that other young groups internationally also kind of get involved, which brings in the collaboration. So it would work quite well for younger practitioners to see and encourage young practitioners globally to come to LIDW. So you create those kind of global relationships as well.
I want to come to you, stick with you finally, Laura. What would be your advice for those looking to pursue a career in dispute resolution?
So obviously, the usual, it's necessary to be hardworking and resilient. It's not the easiest of jobs, but what is an easy job? It's one of those. But I touched on it earlier that I think one of the important things to do is create a network right from the beginning of your career, self-promoting yourself, but also that it helps you to build your own confidence as well. I'm not just coming into the office and doing my job and putting down all the hours and then leaving. It's like there's more to it than that. It's not just working all the hours under the sun. It's speaking to people and creating relationships and building on those, because that will help you later in your career as well. Your career develops as you move up the ranks into more senior associate roles or partner roles in the kind of legal world. So I think that's I've touched on it before, but again I'm obviously trying to push on it a bit more, but because of events like LIDW really do help that and help you to build your platform, and if you prefer smaller things like going out for lunches, maybe meeting people at these events and then building on those a bit more, it just kind of like trickles out, and then you start seeing the same sort of people at different events and you build that confidence, you become more well known, and it's like, oh, people do know who I am, that's quite nice. And it's just kind of it builds you up all the time. So it's a really good way of creating a career path for yourself.
Yeah, no, and really well said. And we absolutely, are big fans of it over here on the Legally Speaking podcast. So, Michael, before we wrap up, if our listeners want to learn more about LIDW Yaya, how can they find out more? Where can they buy tickets? And feel free to shout out any social media handles, websites, and we'll also share them with this episode for you too.
Yeah, and of course, probably the central base is the LIDW 2024 website, which is 2024.lidw.co.uk. Hopefully that link should work, and you'll find all the information you need on the program, details of the event, FAQ, and whatnot. And then, if you're on LinkedIn, I imagine that if we're doing our job properly, there will be multiple posts from various members of the committee and other sporting groups. Click on it, and if you're really struggling to find anything, then Laura and I or any other member of the committee would be more than happy to provide whatever details we can.
Absolutely. Well, it just leaves me to say thank you so much, Michael and Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Wishing you lots of continued success with your careers and indeed the London International Disputes Week and Yaya and everything you're getting up to. But from all of us on the show, over and out. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like the content here, why not check out our world-leading content and collaboration hub, the Legally Speaking Club, over on Discord. Go to our website, www.legallyspeakingpodcast.com, for the link to join our community there. Over and out.